The oppressive silence of the house weighed on all three of them as they ventured into their separate paths. It wasn't long before each began to realize that something was terribly wrong. Ellie climbed the narrow staircase, her flashlight flickering with each step. The air grew heavier as she reached the attic door and the shadows seemed to lengthen unnaturally. She shoved the door open, revealing a room thick with dust and cluttered with forgotten relics, old trunks, cobwebbed chairs, and an ornate mirror leaning against the far wall.
Jackpot!
She muttered, her voice sounding muffled, as though the house was swallowing her words. She stepped closer to the mirror, its surface cracked and fogged. Wiping it with her sleeve, she froze. Her reflection wasn't mimicking her movements, instead it stood perfectly still, staring at her with hollow, unblinking eyes. Ellie stepped back, her breathing quick and shallow. The reflection tilted its head, an unnaturally sharp motion, and grinned, its mouth stretching far too wide. The flashlight in her hand flickered wildly, casting erratic beams of light around the room. When it steadied, the reflection was gone, leaving only her terrified face staring back at her. Then the mirror cracked. A jagged fracture raced across its surface, and from behind it came a faint, wet sound, like something breathing. Marcus stayed on the first floor, his camera in hand as he ventured into the kitchen. To his surprise, the room was oddly pristine, untouched by the decay that marred the rest of the house. Silverware sat neatly on the table, as if someone had just set it moments ago. He set up his camera on a tripod, focusing it on the eerie stillness of the room. As he adjusted the lens, a low hum filled the air, faint at first but growing louder. The utensils on the table began to rattle, then lifted into the air, spinning slowly as if caught in an invisible vortex.
"What the?"
Marcus whispered, backing away. The knives turned sharply toward him, their gleaming edges catching the dim light. They hung there for a moment, suspended and menacing, before one shot forward, embedding itself in the wall inches from his face. The hum grew deeper, vibrating through the floorboards. He grabbed his camera and stumbled out of the room, the sound following him like a predator. June descended into the basement, gripping her flashlight tightly. The stairs creaked beneath her, but the sound was faint, as though the house was swallowing it. The walls were damp, and the strange symbols carved into them appeared fresher here, their edges sharp and glistening. At the bottom of the stairs, the air was cold, unnaturally so. In the center of the room sat a wooden chair bolted to the floor. On it rested a porcelain doll, its face cracked but its eyes unnervingly lifelike. June shined her flashlight on the doll, its head turned slightly and she gasped, stumbling back.
Guys, there's a doll down here.
Static crackled, followed by Ellie's distorted voice.
Stay there, June.
The flashlight began to flicker. The doll's mouth opened, releasing a low, guttural hum that resonated through the room. From the shadows behind the chair emerged a figure, a woman in a tattered, blood-stained dress. Her head bent at an unnatural angle, and her eyeless sockets leaked a thick, black fluid. June's scream caught in her throat as the figure moved toward her, its clawed hand outstretched.
You shouldn't have come.
The voice stabbing into her mind, the basement door slammed shut above her. To be continued.